They dragged her into the tribunal half-conscious and bleeding. The great hall of the Cervanti Empire, an enormous dome of polished onyx and shimmering gold veins, fell silent as the doors groaned open. 1,000 alien nobles in tiered seats watched with polite amusement as the human was tossed like garbage into the center circle. She landed hard. No cry of pain, just a grunt, a shuffle. And then she lifted her chin. Her name was Commander Elise Raines, the last known survivor of the human frontier relay stations, and, as far as the galaxy was concerned, the last remnant of her species. High Lord Vacrez, dressed in ceremonial warplate, descended from his perch like a vulture approaching a carcass. His six-fingered hands glinted with rings forged from the bones of fallen kings. His expression was theatrical, bored even, as he addressed the chamber. You see before you the last gasping ember of a failed species. The Terrans, defiant to the end, chose war over servitude. And now, this is all that remains. The crowd murmured. Chuckles rippled through the balconies. Elise wiped blood from her cracked lip, said nothing. Vacrez paced before her. Speak, human. Do you have last words? A plea for mercy? A whisper of regret? She studied him with steel blue eyes, blood pooling on the floor beneath her from a fresh gash above her knee. Every breath was labored. Her shoulder hung dislocated. Her left hand trembled from nerve damage. Still, she smiled. I'm just the first you'll regret. The chamber froze. The translator relays buzzed, some viewers unsure they'd heard her right. Vacrez let out a sharp bark of laughter, cruel and echoing. He turned to the crowd. You hear that? Defiance. Even in death. How adorably human. He knelt beside her, his face inches from hers, yellow eyes gleaming with condescension. You mistake your pain for power, your extinction for mystery. You think your stubbornness makes you strong? He stood again, raised one gauntlet, then backhanded her across the face with a sound that cracked like lightning. Her head snapped sideways. Blood spattered across the floor. She spat out a tooth, still smiling. That's the best you've got? She whispered. Gasps echoed around the chamber. Some Cervanti looked genuinely uncomfortable. Vacrez narrowed his eyes, his pride bruised. You insolent. No, she said. I'm just the beginning. He reached down again, this time with deliberate menace, and gripped her forearm. Fingers like steel bands closed around her wrist and began to squeeze. Do you feel that? He hissed. The strength of a superior species. I could crush your bones. Try it, she said. A pause. Then he laughed again, louder this time, a jeering, arrogant thing that rang like a gong across the tribunal. He tightened his grip, and that was his last mistake. Because she wasn't screaming. She was counting. 3, 2, 1. She moved. Not a shift of weight, not a swing of the hips, just a flick of the wrist, a twist of the elbow. Her fingers latched onto his arm in a lock, and she squeezed. Crack. The sound was unnatural, a dry, splintering snap that echoed too loud in the suddenly silent chamber. It wasn't her bones that broke. It was his. Vacrez screamed, a primal, panicked shriek that made every noble flinch. She twisted again, grinding his joint the wrong way. Her chains rattled. Blood poured from her nose, her mouth, but she didn't stop. Vacrez dropped to one knee. You laughed in my face, she said, low. Then she crushed his elbow with a pop that sent chunks of armor and bone skidding across the floor. Screams erupted. Guards rushed the dais. Elise was already rising, still chained, still broken, but standing. Her eyes met the nearest guards. "Send a message," she growled. "Earth isn't dead." Then they shot her, and the screen went black. But that was never the end. That was the beginning. The footage leaked. Of course it did. 10 different intelligence bureaus claimed responsibility for suppressing it. 12 tried to trace the origin. None succeeded. All anyone knew was that by the end of the cycle, the recording of a chained, half-dead human woman shattering the arm of High Lord Vokres had reached every major data stream in the galaxy. Some thought it a forgery. Most didn't. Because the scream, that was real. And more importantly, she had spoken the words. Earth isn't dead. It wasn't just defiance, it was prophecy. Across 1,000 star systems, people rewatched the moment in awe. A woman, barely standing, broken, surrounded, facing extinction. And she smiled. She smiled. And he screamed. Galactic species who'd never feared humans began to wonder if they'd miscalculated. The Cervanti Empire, once the dominant power block, scrambled to do damage control. They released official statements. The human was executed for war crimes. Earth's resistance has been thoroughly extinguished. There will be no retaliation. But it was too late. The myth had taken root. And then, the retaliation came. It started small. A Cervanti patrol ship disappeared near the outer rim. The final log was a brief burst of static, followed by the words, "You should have left us buried." No survivors. 2 weeks later, an outpost on Grelok 4 went dark. The charred ruins showed no signs of orbital bombardment, just melted structures, glassed terrain, and something worse. Cervanti bodies stripped of armor, positioned like trophies. By the third incident, panic had set in. "Ghost fleets," someone whispered. "Black Ops. Terran revenants. Earth's wrath." Theories blossomed, none confirmed. But one detail was always consistent. Not a single attacker was ever found. Admiral Katerin of the Varnathi Accord, neutral species, tacticians by blood, called an emergency summit. They watched the human footage together. Elise's defiance, the brutal arm break, the last defiant breath before they shot her. Silence followed. "We underestimated them," Katerin said at last. "We always underestimated them," whispered someone in the back. The Admiral turned to her aide. "Where is Earth now?" "Still quarantined. But there are anomalies." "Explain." "Signals, short bursts, encrypted, like whispers in the dark. Someone's talking." "To whom?" "No idea, but they're listening." The Cervanti, desperate to save face, doubled down. They paraded the corpse of Commander Elise Rains across 12 systems, propped her up in stasis, called her the last human, laughed at her memory. But on the edges of known space, where forgotten colonies once carried Earth's banner, something began to stir. A hidden asteroid belt near Cygni Prime flared to life with pulse drive signatures. A derelict station above Neptune reactivated its beacons. A coded message broadcast in dead languages began pinging across relay nodes. Project Helix online. Red protocols authorized. Humanity returns. Inside the wreckage of Titan Relay Command, a lone survivor sat in darkness. General Elias Thorne, presumed dead. Left for dead. He wasn't. A half-meter of alloy grafted into his spine, one eye flickering with a cybernetic pulse. He watched Elise's footage again. Again. Each time her final words echoed, "Send a message. Earth isn't dead." He leaned forward, whispered into a comlink burned into his jaw. "Signal them. All of them." "Sir, are you sure?" "They need to know." Thorn said. We're not done. The light on the console flickered green. Signal sent. Far beyond the stars, in a deep cryo-vault hidden beneath a collapsed moon, the sleeping agents of Earth's Black Sun Initiative stirred from frozen slumber. Nerve pulses ignited. Armor systems came online. One by one, names glowed on resurrection screens. Reyes, Vale, Matsu, Commander Talek, and one more. Codename, Mother Storm. They'd buried her with honors. Now she walked again. On the outer edges of civilized space, stations once thought abandoned came alive. Old Earth tech, obsolete by galactic standards, yet strangely effective. Faster than predicted, smarter than predicted, meaner than predicted. And everywhere it spread, a whisper trailed in its wake. We are the ones who woke. They weren't government, they weren't military, they weren't even organized. But they were human, and the galaxy had forgotten what that meant. Somewhere near the ash fields of Vel Terran, a diplomatic envoy came under attack. No warning, no declaration, just fire from the void. One moment they were relaying a trade negotiation. The next, every Cervanti aboard was gone. Evacuated pods intercepted. Crew flash frozen in the vacuum. Cargo untouched. But what chilled the survivors wasn't the precision. It was the calling card left behind. A single steel shard, carved with words in Terran Latin. Ultio venit. Vengeance comes. At the heart of it all, Earth remained silent. Still blockaded. Still considered quarantined. The official line was that the planet had died in the first waves, that its atmosphere was scorched, that there was nothing left. But that wasn't true. Beneath the crust of the old world, cities hummed with life. In deep vaults, shielded from orbital scans, billions endured. They had watched Elise die, watched her stand, watched her win in her final breath. Now, they prepared. General Elias Thorne stood inside the Chamber of Dust, the old war room beneath Antarctica. He faced a panel of ghost leaders, holograms patched from fragmented AIs and decommissioned war satellites, the last remnants of Earth's command systems. One voice asked, "Are you certain the time has come?" Thorne didn't blink. They paraded her corpse. Another voice, female, colder, "And now they pay?" "Now they remember," he said. "We don't need their surrender. We don't want their forgiveness." He turned to the holomap of the stars. Whole sectors lit red. "We want truth." And so began the wake. They weren't soldiers. They were survivors. Children born in cryo chambers beneath dead colonies. Engineers raised on ghost ships drifting in asteroid fields. Biotech specialists who stitched themselves into machines just to breathe long enough to finish their work. One of them, Mira Vale, recon tactician, half her lungs replaced with nanofilament, spoke through an encrypted broadcast. "You forgot us, but we didn't forget you. You broke our bones, burned our homes, and still, we woke. We're not ghosts. We're not myths. We're human. And we're coming home." The Cervanti deployed full sector burn teams, planetary firewalls, AI hunter fleets, no survivors, no witnesses. But it didn't matter, because the humans didn't fight like a military. They fought like a species that had learned extinction and refused it. They didn't invade planets. They emptied them. No scorched earth, just silence. A complete and surgical erasure. One diplomat begged for reason over open channel. "What do you want? What will make you stop?" The answer came, delayed by static. "You laughed at our pain. Now you'll drown in it." In the ruined capital of Korthval Prime, a statue was erected. Not by the victors, by the survivors. A woman, chained at the wrists, standing upright, eyes burning with defiance. Beneath it, a plaque. She stood, and so did we. Human resistance. But it wasn't until the Cervantes Supreme Fleet vanished, 60 dreadnoughts, gone from existence in a single pulse, that the Empire understood. Earth didn't want their throne. Earth wanted their remembrance. They wanted them to feel everything: fear, loss, regret, and most of all, humility. High Lord Vokrez awoke in a medical cathedral on Zaltrin 3. His right arm, the one she had shattered, was gone. Not replaced, not healed, simply missing. The med priests had offered him augments. They'd brought designs from a dozen systems, polymorphic limbs, weapons grafts, cybernetic upgrades. He refused them all, not from pride, from fear. Every time he reached with the remaining limb, he felt her hand again. Elise Raines, the human who broke him, who died laughing, who stood taller than an empire even as she bled out on their floor. He'd mocked her, and now his nightmares bled with her name. The Cervantes Empire collapsed from the inside. All the old allies, gone. Trade routes, cut. Their citizens, afraid. Not of war, of memory. Because everywhere they turned, the ghosts of humanity rose behind them. Not to kill, but to shame. On every public screen, hacked footage played in loops. Elise's final stand. The scream, the smile. The moment a broken woman became a symbol. They tried to censor it. Couldn't. They tried to erase her. Too late. Because Elise had done what armies couldn't. She had made truth immortal. On a neutral world near the galactic core, surviving diplomats convened. It was time to speak, to ask, to plead. The humans arrived without fanfare. No warships, no fanfare, no banners. Just 3 individuals. One was General Elias Thorne, his spine a ribbon of alloy and memory. Another was Mira Vale, scarred and quiet. And the third was her, or rather, what she became. They called her Mother Storm. Not cloned, not reanimated, rebuilt, reforged from DNA, neural scans, preserved brainstem echoes. The galaxy had burned her once. Earth had brought her back. She entered the council chamber in silence. No guards, no weapons. Just eyes like ice and a body that moved with impossible calm. Vokrez was there, now a trembling shadow of what he once was. He stood when she approached, tried to meet her gaze, failed. His voice cracked as he whispered, "What do you want?" Her answer was soft, but every syllable slammed like a meteor. "I want you to remember." He blinked. "Remember what?" She leaned in. The room held its breath. "That you laughed in my face." And then, her hand moved. Slowly, silently. She gripped what remained of his left wrist. He didn't struggle. "And I crushed your arm," she whispered, "without shifting my weight." And she let go. No violence, no rage, just reminder. That night, the stars held still. Galactic networks lit up with a single message. The war is over. Earth remembers. No terms were announced, no reparations demanded. Only one condition was sent to every world, every species, every archive. Let the children learn who we were. Let the empires know what you did. Never again shall humanity beg. And that was enough. Because it wasn't revenge, it was presence. Earth had returned, and it didn't need to conquer. It needed to be seen. In the shadow of Jupiter's broken moon, a new monument stood. Its surface bore no names, no nation flags, no weapons. Only a woman, head held high, wrists unchained, eyes forward. Underneath, a line etched in ancient Terran steel. They laughed at our fall. We answered with our rise. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were. Not beasts, not saviors. Something older, deeper, a spark, a storm, a promise. They crushed her body. But her will? Her story? That endured. Because you can shatter bone. You can silence breath. But you cannot kill the weight of a soul that refuses to kneel. And when they laughed in her face, she crushed their arm without even shifting her weight.